Welcome back to Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters, so let's get to the chase. Let's pursue Queen Aga'po for another flying stage. Well, this is surprisingly, despite the fact that the situation is urgent, Hal is moving very slowly. With this interface and the snake, it actually reminds me a bit of Space Harrier. I wonder if the team was, Willix was a fan of that.
Again, I really just get more Star Fox vibes from this.
Never give up, trust your instincts, I guess.
Because I get Star Fox vibes from this, of course I also get Gummy Ship vibes from this, because that was clearly going for the Star Fox vibe in Kingdom Hearts 1.
I don't know, it was still very slow in that one. At least Star Fox had, speed.
I said it was taking inspiration, heavy inspiration from Star Fox. I didn't say that it nailed the gameplay.
Fair enough.
Like,
have you got a turbo controller to you?
No.
Ah, the turbo controller.
I honestly don't even know if there's an official one released for the PlayStation 3. Not a bootleg one, I mean.
From what I recall, turbo controllers aren't really official anyway, by nature.
Okay. I thought the NES or Super NES one were actually official by Nintendo.
Maybe back then, but nowadays, I've never really known a turbo controller to be official. Though Lord knows it can come in handy.
No, this is one occasion where you can just, hold the button for these sections and Hal will automatically shoot repeatedly. I don't have to manually do that. I have to do that for a section on land because the shots are more precise one at a time. So it makes more sense for them to not be, in quick succession.
I was actually going to ask what your stance on turbo controllers, but if you've never used one before, I guess
I know what they do, Jova, but simply put, I'm fine either way. I'm honestly fine with button mashing is actually never been a problem for me. I know that everyone loves to say, oh no, my thumbs have been aching for that, but I never really encountered that problem. But when it comes to actually proper button mashing, like say a QT in a God of War game, like I said, the best advice that I can give you is that for that section, put the controller on your lap and start using your index fingers instead. It's much better.
Whee!
And yes, for the super mode, you turn into a jet. And yeah, by the way, in co-op, even Sinestro can do that, even if he probably doesn't even know what a human jet looks like.
I guess he finally started listening to Hal.
That's the thing. Characterization-wise, Sinestro is even worse here than in the movie. In the movie, he barely does anything, and at the end, he just shows up becoming corrupted by Parallax and becoming the first Yellow Lantern. Here, he starts to being a dick towards Hal, and suddenly, at the end of the game, he's okay with him.
I guess
he's just cool dude, I guess.
I guess it's an idea of character development in that sense.
Kilowog is much better, characterized in this game, actually. He's a proper friend and mentor towards Hal. Strange enough, we don't get the other alien that's mentor towards Hal. I forgot, the one that teaches him to fly. I forgot what he's called.
I keep forgetting his name. He's like the other popular Green Lantern aside from Kilowog.
He shows up instead for the Wii version of the game. I forgot if I mentioned already, but the Wii version is one case where the Wii version is a completely different game rather than this one. The plot is roughly the same, but it involves a different range of characters and a completely different gameplay style. Dark Lord Shadow 1 reviewed it actually, and it's not super impressive. Sorry, go on.
Let me guess, on the rail shooter?
No, it's actually a kind of a Metroidvania. It's weird, but it's even easier than this one supposedly. It saves your state every 5 seconds.
That I guess is player friendly.
Well, way too much potentially. But again, I suggest you watch his review anyway, or see him for yourself. I actually don't know how the 3DS version potentially is, if it's similar to the Nintendo, to the Wii one or this one. The only other information that I know is that a PSP version was planned, but it was actually cancelled. If I recall correctly, Double Helix did develop all of them.
Huh. Quite a feat.
Well, like I said, Double Helix is
underrated.
Yeah, it's not really necessarily a bad studio. We just got thrown, a lot of crap. Oh no, never mind then. The Nintendo versions were done, Wii, Nintendo DS, and 3DS were done instead by Kryptonite Games, which are now part of the Foundation 9 Entertainment conglomerate.
Huh. Interesting.
Sure. Now, this particular section can be a bit tricky because sometimes you get this section where you're, stuck in a place and enemies bombard you left and right. And for those sections, the projectiles really are, dangerous. So you need to pay attention and, keep your health low. There we go. Or, conserve your super mode for this. Whoa.
Cowards.
Remember, we're after the main source of the violet, purple, pink, whatever light.
I know where they're
Why do you still pursue it? Don't you know you're doomed?
That's the stupid villain banter number 22.
Well, I've never been all that right.
Ow.
But hey, at least for the flying section, more Manhunters start showing up instead of being just the Samaritan soldiers. Especially because when we actually get back to Feet, we'll have to fight mostly those again.
They move too fast.
Well, Gial, maybe if you yourself move fast, you will actually catch up to them.
But then I might be moving too fast for the player to register
God,
what's
it's
going
like
on.
Yeah, it would be like those sections in Aladdin Nazira's Revenge with the carpet where you're just zooming.
Oh my god! I was gonna say it's like the Last Jedi. We could be going faster. We just choose not to because.
No, to be fair, there's not like a reason that Hal is consuming fuel by flying here, so no. I had to fight one of these Manhunter Ultras, and this fight is better suited for when you're on land, and it shows because otherwise, when it comes to instead here, it's the boss is super spongy. Like it absorbs so much of your health, you barely do that much damage, and you need to constantly dodge his attacks. Look, it's not even that hard. It's just a matter of the fact that he's super spongy. That's it.
Even against
So it's more of a
the
matter.
powerful
It's a matter.
jets.
It's a matter of attrition rather than a test of skills.
Okay. I can keep this up as long as you can.
Kinda. Now the cool thing is that, even if you're in a pinch, your green meter will at least have a minor reserve of some kind, so it will never be short enough in creating constructs if you need help, even for this section where creating construct equates to, launching a missile instead of just a simple projectile. So at least there is that. The game doesn't, make you potentially feel dry out of nowhere and make you things even worse for you. There we go. And even in hard mode I tested, your super meter regenerates very quickly, and you do that only by just basically playing the game, by dealing damage to the enemy and getting inflicted damage onto yourself. And it feels relatively quickly, so it's even, convenient enough for you to activate in moment of need.
Makes sense to me.
Again, it's similar to what I said about Captain America Super Soldier. It's a thing about a licensed game, and you have to remember that the main target of these is, children and teens. So it needs to be first game for someone.
Keep going at it, Hal. You'll wear him down eventually.
Especially because he doesn't look really worse for wear aside from the L bar. There we go.
He's hurting on the inside. Now on the outside.
That's too deep.
Kilowog? Kilowog, respond. Sinestro, I called Kilowog, but I'm not getting through.
Perhaps he's concentrating on his work, which is what you should be doing.
You're the heart of the party, Sinestro.
So, if the other player was playing as Sinestro, would he show up in
No,
this cutscene?
no, he doesn't. I actually tested it. He doesn't show up in cutscenes that will potentially have him being there and talking to Hal.
Jordan out.
Alas.
I guess the official excuse is that he's floating around in another zone of the planet. Because again,
Go on.
for co-op, he will automatically show up at the beginning of each level. But I guess the idea behind it will be that he just, floats there in time.
You know, split up to cover more ground.
Yeah, I guess. Ow.
Oh.
The point is that you still need to get through Queen Aga'po and her guards, so it's another... This time instead the levels will be more centered around inside rather than, you know, be on the outskirts. So it will actually involve a pretty nifty puzzle, I would have to say. Nothing too special, but, you know, variety from the previous level, before it becomes too monotonous. The full...
Sorry.
Sorry, go on.
I remember what you were talking about, Joe. You were talking about how awesome I am.
Right.
No, but well, actually, I do remember now. One thing that I noticed is that this is one game. Oh, I'm about to show the dizziness in a second, I think, because this is where I discovered it. But whatever. The point is that I will show up it at some point. The point is that this is one game. Oh, there we go. Where the autosave function is actually pretty merciless. Normally, like I mentioned in Prince of Persia, the Forgotten Sands, and will show up sadly again in a future game that you will see. Autosave for my PS3 has this nasty attitude that sometimes when it's happening, it freezes a cutscene that is going on, and potentially also like desyncs the audio from the cutscene, which is a bad thing because it ruins completely everything that the game was going for. This game actually has autosave, but is pretty okay in handling things, so cool enough. All right, I forgot if I mentioned it. The white canisters, unlike the green one that give you drink energy and the blue one that gives you life, the white canisters actually give you extra experience points, which again, it's recommended if you want to get all the construct and level up as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Also, for some reason, Hal, when Hal is upgrading his attacks, he normally uses a normal sword for the normal attack and like a set of green fists constructs when he's doing heavy attack. But if you upgrade it, soon enough, he replaces the normal blades with a pair of cleavers, because I guess those are more powerful, and the fist with a pair of hammers. Like, I honestly don't remember how this much creativity with Hal and his constructs.
Hal is like, okay, if we were to range creativity, let's put it like this. Guy Gardner would be at the absolute bottom of the barrel when it comes to creativity. Yeah. Next up, I guess, would be either Hal Jordan or Alan Scott. Alan Scott tends to vary because he's been through quite a few revisions, despite being the very first Green Lantern, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a thing, folks. Remember, even though Hal Jordan is supposedly the most iconic, he wasn't even the first Green Lantern.
It's because, remember, Joe, a couple of legacy heroes after the Golden Age were becoming the first, kind of like how Power Girl was technically speaking the first Supergirl, but, instead she's treated as a completely different character.
Yeah, like Supergirl from Earth 2 and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, again, when it comes to creativity, okay, I'll be generous to Hal and say he's maybe more creative than Alan Scott. Then after him comes John Stewart, and then, of course, at the top of creativity is Kyle Rayner, because
he's an artist.
A freaking comic book artist. That said, John Stewart's still my favorite, though. Yeah, Kyle Rayner is definitely the most creative of the Green Lanterns.
Well, there's also the other factor. I think I mentioned it another place, but yeah, the other factor that makes a Green Lantern is not just the creativity, but the actual willpower.
Yeah.
And in that point is Kyle Rayner, the bottom of the barrel of the list, because the poor guy gets traumatized every 5 seconds and can't keep his construct alive for more than a minute.
When it comes with the highest...
Conversely, Guy Garner is on the top because the guy is a stubborn motherfucker, and that's how he rolls. So if he gets into an argument, you will not break his construct, even if you try.
Pretty much. The dude was so desperate that he actually once took on a Yellow Lantern just to become a hero again. Of course, what kept him from getting corrupted by the Yellow Lantern was just his freaking willpower.
The only time that I saw him in an actual position of danger was during the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle run, and that's because they introduced the whole retcon about the Scarab being alien technology from the Reach, which was in direct conflict with the Lantern Corps. So,
But yeah, so in a way they sort of balance stuff out here and there.
I like that because again it gives a bit of variety to the actual Green Lantern characters instead of having, you know, clones of even or legacy characters.
Oh yeah, each one has a more different fighting style. Guy Gardner, he's basically the blunt fisticuffs kind of guy who will literally punch the problem till it's unconscious.
Because Job, this game doesn't have explosion post-enemy death damage.
Ugh, God, I hate when that
Thankfully not,
happens.
Wibs. But as you can see, one cool tactic that you can use is to activate super mode and instead whip out the machine gun and start shooting like you're like you're fucking Rev Brown.
It's like what happens in the Papu Papu boss fight in Crash 1.
And yeah, so you can. It's a good place to farm for a trophy that's about getting 100 hit combo.
Bong! Ooh! Stop! Stop the match! He's already down!
Is he bashing him with a hammer or with those toilet cleaners?
No, a hammer and then pistols, you know, as in car pistols. Those can become also an actual construct for you.
Yeah.
I guess it's the one reference to the movie with the stupid macro machine construct.
Wait. You mean the Hot Wheels car?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there's a difference between Hot Wheels and micro
No,
machines.
you're right.
And trust me, everyone and their mother remembers that Hot Wheels promotion because that was like the most popular trailer for that goddamn movie. That along with the cross promotion of the Hot Wheels car. I mean, it's arguably one of the best scenes in the movie because it's Green Lantern being Green Lantern, being creative, and you know,
constructed something.
Yeah.
Again, it needs to be stressed out. The fucking climax has the creativeness and willpower of Al Jordan creating a net, which he uses to throw Parallax into the sun. And yes, sure, he does like a missile for because it is a pilot and everything. But that's like the one last thing. Like, you expect him to to be creative, to be even more creative or something, but no, it just gets a fucking net.
I will give them credit. How's that kind of character who, in a pinch, can be creative, or otherwise will think rather basic, so that kind of stuff isn't character for Hal.
I understand that, but again, considering he didn't much for the rest of the movie, and again, you need to sell this for the non-comic book fan, potentially, you know. You would think that he would have a strong start, and then potentially you can, you know, be more legs down for eventual sequels we would have made.
True, yeah.
Again, it was supposed to be the supposed start of the cinematic universe, and yet it felt, you know, like we weren't even trying to build a strong base.
It really felt like, you know, they thought, okay, clearly we've got the superhero thing under our belts, now let's give it a try with Green Lantern. Did not pan out that well.
There we go. I think in this case you need to light up both, it's one of the cases where you need to light up both towers at the same time. Yeah, there we go.
So what's your favorite? So what's your favorite ever construct that you've seen a Green Lantern do, Tio?
In this game.
Well, I was gonna say like, well, for the Green Lantern franchise in general, but sure, let's start with this game.
Like I said, well, okay, for this game, one that you will see later, basically a power armor, which will be very game breaker. But in general, like I said, since I'm a fan of Larfleeze and the Agent Orange kind of, you know, Lantern Corps, of course, they have the ability of it to resurrect the other member of the Corps as basically your subordinates. Then there's, okay, a close second, there's the Red Lantern Rage construct, which essentially lets them vomit blood. acid blood towards the enemies. The cat can do it too, the X-Star. It's adorable because of that.
Yep.
chamber is filled with Zamoron's great
Okay, new minor enemy type, Zamoronyan guards, but they're made of stone, and that makes them different. And you can smash them as much as you want.
Excellent.
Not really. But yeah, it reminds me also of that crossover that I mentioned in the previous part that Green Lantern had with Star Trek, because they get, they take the occasion to be very creative with also what they do, because due to plot reasons, colored Lantern Ring end up in the Star Trek universe, and each chose, a wielder. For example, the orange one chooses a Romulan, which makes him slaughter the entire Romulan console and then resurrect them to be at his whim. That's nice. Then there's the... for the yellow one, it actually goes to a Klingon, and instead he uses it to basically construct... You know how in... for example, stuff like the Next Generation, you get to hear from Worf the mythology of the Klingons, the fact, we slain our gods, or like they're the mythical beast of this particular era. Yeah, the Klingon of the story, which is a younger version, quote unquote, of the main villain of the sixth movie. I forgot what it's called. Use the ring to reconstruct a part of those particular Klingon beasts, which makes it a pretty cool real spectacle. So it's a story where we take advantage of the source material and showcase that the creators knew what they were doing. So overall it's actually one of the very nice what if scenarios that we created. Much better than stuff like the X-Men crossover, which I really did not see the point of them
Which
making
X-Men
of.
crossover? Because they
Either, gotta be honest, either, Jova. Keep in mind,
Oh, even the
both
third
of-
one?
I haven't seen the third one. I only saw the two ones that Linkara did. The first one, which is tied to the first series, and the second one, which is tied to Next Generation, but it's technically a sequel to the first one. The nice thing is that both crossovers are a sequel to each other, meaning that they're not still separate stories. So there is an overarching narrative attached to it, but it's still not that great. Doesn't help that. I think, if I recall correctly, the Next Generation crossover, in terms of timeline placement for the Next Generation, is right after Insurrection. So there's that.
Although, tell me you wouldn't have loved to have seen that actually converted into a movie. Imagine Charles Xavier meeting with Picard, and wait a minute.
The problem, Job, is that at the time, Professor X was not present in the X-Mansion, so they chose the worst time to have an X-Men crossover.
I know, but seriously though, imagine if we had Patrick Stewart opposite himself. I mean, it's almost as cool as the Mark Hamill versus Patrick Stewart commercials we've been getting recently.
That's why they stole the yellow energy.
Kilowog went to Beyond. Perhaps he's discovered their plans. Beyond is surrounded with a communications damper. We expect to break through it shortly.
Sure.
Great. As soon as you speak to Kilowog, let me know. Jordan out.
Oop. Also, yeah, every time Hal has one of his cutscenes, or mini cutscenes, where he, talks with the ring, the game does the whole, slow things down in order to not make you go too faster. It's fine, but it might as well just have Al stop himself entirely to talk. You don't really have to show me a cutscene, but I don't really need to walk if I have to listen to dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if I recall correctly, right after the snake is the puzzle chamber, which is the one that I will show later. That will show what they implemented.
Cool.
There you go. I actually do wonder how the Xbox 360 version performs, if it's a bit better, because again, this is the PS3 version. It is, still relatively polished. I don't remember encountering major frame rate dips. There is that thing that I mentioned with the snake worm enemy, where if you're, a bit too far from it, if it's too far from the camera, it becomes blurry to avoid the frame rate drops. So the game adopts that kind of tactic. But aside from that, I don't remember any particular major issues. So I do wonder if the Xbox 360 is, more polished as a result. Like, the game is a consistent 30 frames anyway, so I'm not expecting, like, going super fast. But it's still fine enough for what he wants to do. Like, I'll take that over performance for stuff like for the God of Thunder.
Let's see. Yes. Good. Crack that safe open.
Also, gotta love it. There was like a path on the left, but since it's an invisible wall, I can go there. So why don't you put like a rock there for impeding me to go? All right.
This room feels strange.
No man has ever been permitted entry before. For that alone, you must die.
Well, excuse me, Queen.
No, that's just the mind control talking, honey. You don't really mean it.
All right. For this one, you need to read the rules on top of each. There you go. Each the door that is locked, and you will have to throw the ball in the corresponding entrance. To make sure they unlock, and you will recover more of these spheres as you enter through the doors. All right. Recognize this music, Pedro? Maybe.
Yeah.
Ah.
What about those of us who don't?
Like you lives. It's the Muse theme from God of War 3. I think it was appropriate because this kind of puzzle is slightly similar. It doesn't involve a rhythm game, but it is still relatively similar. You have to manipulate the room in your favor. Although again, the reason why I sped up is because there are quite a bit of enemy hordes here, so might as well just moving onward. But overall, like I said, I actually really like this puzzle. It's one that shows you what the solution is, but doesn't tell you up front, and you need to actually observe the environment to make it and work it to your advantage. You don't really have to do stuff like note on paper what the symbols actually are, but at the same time, it doesn't like tell you, oh, this letter corresponds to A or something. Oh yeah, every time
I thought you were up to song off Game of Thrones or something.
No. No, if you don't remember, Dweebs, I forgot the exact name, but the composer of the Olympus Saga of God of War games is the same guy who composed for Spider-Man Edge of Time.
Ah, okay.
He has a distinct kind of style.
Yep. Yes, he does.
There we go.
Yeah, it's an interesting puzzle, not gonna lie.
It's also relatively simple, and most of the time it's Hal just walking around with these spheres like he's holding a balloon. There we go. So now it's time for the boss fight. Basically match 2 against the Queen Aga'po.
Right escape. Blackest.
Don't mind me. Just charging up my lantern.
Of these conveniently lantern-based power-ups.
Stop!
You are too late, you. Behold the Zamaron defender. She who founded this
It's a
world
statue.
will now purify it.
Also, what's this echo?
The Manhunters. They want to destroy your world and your people.
You speak the Guardian's lies, Green Lantern. and
I
now
mean,
you
on a way she's not wrong, but
Unfortunately, Tio, she's mind controlled. That takes priority.
not just that. It's the lesser evil in this case. The Manhunters take priority. So yeah, round 2 is not necessarily Queen Aga'po, but the entire statue of the founder of the Zamaronian, which is probably for me the best boss in the entire game. There we go. Now, as you can see, the boss has a Zelda-style, hit here, you dumb fuck points. But it's not as, as intuitive as it may be, like in a sense that, sure, you can go for the projectiles, but you don't have, infinite energy to use. So you will have to wait until the attacks are telegraphed on the ground and, hit at that point. And considering the boss has actually a variety of attacks that cover ample ground, as you can see, you need to take your chances and decide when to hit and when not. The boss is not super spongy, but again, it's all about understanding the pattern of the attack and knowing when to hit and when not. Yeah.
She's barfing out snakes at us. Pleasant.
Why did we have to be snakes? Ow.
Oh.
That's a oof. There you go. One potential thing that you can do through is also the air juggling. Surprisingly enough, I discovered at this point of the game, Hal has pretty much a good floating mechanic when it comes to, you know, jumping and attacking, so might as well.
I see she went to the Kingdom Hearts School of Boss Health.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question, Jova. Like, do you prefer this kind of one with the color bars, or the style that they adopted from 2 onward of having, you know, just green bars, but showcasing, you know, in small squares how much it was left?
You know, I'm gonna say I kind of prefer the color one for variants, though I will admit, one advantage that, you know, 2 and onward had was, you know, in the sense where you didn't have some bars that for some reason didn't drain at all for a set amount of time until you later did it. I would go for just a proper one where the health does properly drain all the time, though. Which did you prefer, Tio?
The style that they're using still to this day, the green one but with the small squares, but I wouldn't mind a compromise where the color bars are there, but there are still also the small squares to indicate how much is left. You don't remember the colored bars are a reference to Legend of Mana, which, you know, most of the game takes inspiration from. So it makes sense that we wanted to do that kind of you know, health significance as well.
Not entirely surprising, considering how a lot of that team apparently went on to make Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, when she does that kind of attack, she raises Crystal on the ground, and you need to clear the room, otherwise you will have no room to move. The good news is that the crystals give you green energy, so it's one good time to bust up the machine gun. So
Lovely.
but you can position yourself just behind, and you will miss all of the attack of the other snake. There you go. Shit.
Roar, roar.
Oath.
Oh,
And now she starts doing the entropy thing. Boom.
pretty much. Ha! Right back at you. I think you made her mad.
Nah, she was already. She keeps screaming and everything.
Should really see someone about that.
Well, Hal is the cure for it, I guess.
Yes. You have been diagnosed with a case of mind control. Don't worry, it will be cured properly.
Ow. By beating the shit out of you. That always works.
Ah, therapy. A baseball bat.
Yes. And just like you said, Jova, her therapy.
Yeah, this boss actually does feel similar to a God of War boss, Olympus Saga God of War boss.
I get the idea that the team that Helix was a fan of that and wanted to replicate that kind of feeling. Again, For God of Thunder also tried, emphasis on trying, to go through that just with its own spin, but really couldn't and was dampened down by the performance and the sudden difficulty spike at the end. This plays much more safe, but, you know, to its advantage. Jesus. Yeah, if only... Okay, one thing that I would have to say, probably because of how limited potentially the budget must have been, the voice acting is for the most part fine for me, but, you know, the battle benders are still relatively limited, and they can get annoying after a while. Ow. As for the boss herself, as you can see, she's not super spongy, but during the second half of the phase, she can potentially be. It helps that she does that attack that you can use to knock her out using the baseball bat, but otherwise she still takes a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
A little bit more.
There we go.
And there we go.
Oh, stab to the hand.
This is even the cool slow-mo. And this is enough to free the mind control. Oh.
You saved me, Green Lantern. You saved my people. For all
thank you, but you can rest your hand.
Well,
and that's it. And yes, last we receive of Queen Aga'po. Now it's time to look instead for Kilowog.
I was like, okay, thanks, bye.
Well, do you remember, they are the Lantern Corps of Love, so
Yeah,
of course
good.
she's
And I'm fine too,
amicable.
thank you for asking. Zamaron's also free of yellow fear energy. But the Manhunters escaped, and I'll bet you one power ring they're still planning to attack Oa.
The Guardian Council believes you are correct. They possess a powerful
Oh my
new
god,
weapon
they
and
actually
intelligence.
agreed with him.
What is wrong with
Knowledge
you?
of the weapon's existence must be kept secret until we deem
Brrr.
Hold on. I've been trying to raise Kilowog, only I keep getting a busy signal. What's going on?
Sinestro, you want to have an input on the scene?
No, he's fine with this.
I'm fine, thank
We
you.
must repair the power battery and prepare for war.
No way. I don't leave friends behind.
You barely know him.
Actually, I guess at this point you consider
I
Skillwalker.
love how Sinestro acts like a concerned parent. Jordan, did you do this again?
The Manhunters knew about the yellow fear energy and where to find it.
What has that to
No,
do
stop,
with
come
his
back.
disobedience?
There may be another traitor in our ranks.
I wonder who could it be, Jova.
Yes, I wonder. It could be anyone in the massive cast of this video game.
We get this brief moment of classic Sinestro characterization where he resents the Guardians, he doesn't like them, but that's all you're gonna get. Just like in the movie, Sinestro is not gonna betray anyone. So,
It really boggles my mind how they didn't even try with that, because he's called Sinestro. That should be a clue in.
To be fair,
Jova, we did discuss this somewhere else. I know that, but to be fair, like again, the First Flight animated movie showcased that you can do that. You can showcase that kind of story without going into the cliche. Why couldn't they, still take some inspiration from that?
That I do agree with, yes.
Anyway, tune in next time for when we go to rescue Kilowog on the planet of the Manhunters. See ya.
See you then.
See ya.